I'll say side effects, particularly with our food and drinks, because as water sort of overtakes everything, the sewage and everything mixes in. What are food being preserved? How are people going to be selling it? What are people going to be selling? All of this becomes very big conversations to have. And so today we're going to do just that. We're about to have a wonderful, wonderful conversation with a principal dietitian at the University of Ghana Hospital. What does RD mean? Registered dietitian. Wonderful. Registered dietitian Maxwell Bisala Konlan. Welcome, sir. How are you doing?
I'm fine, AJ. I'm happy to be here.
I am so glad you've joined us here on the show today.
I finally get to meet the woman with that powerful voice. The first time I heard your voice, I was like, hey, who is this person with such a very powerful and entertaining voice? Then I went on social media to look for your image, and when I saw you, like what names you say, I was like, okay, I'm not surprised. So I'm glad to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here.
Having a conversation with you.
Thank you for joining us, sir. But yes, now bringing us to a very important conversation. I mean, after the floods, many families are focused on rebuilding, but we forget that our nutrition becomes a possible side effect of the rains. It carries sewage, industrial waste, chemicals, refuse, and harmful microorganisms that can contaminate food supplies, drinking water sources, food preparation areas, and household storage facilities. So, as the rains are still not done, and some places are still not dry, and some people still sell by now overflowing gutters, where the rubbish has accumulated. So, bringing for how we need to the safety measures we need to be putting in place, one, and most importantly, why we should even be focusing on our safety after a flood like this.
All right. Thank you so much. I think this is a very important conversation. And when I was called and told that they want us to talk about flooding and food safety, I was really very happy.
Yeah.
If I had a very tight schedule.
Oh, thank you for making time.
Said, once it's AJ, I'm glad to be here. So first of all, I want to extend our heartfelt condolences to those who lost their lives, those who lost their properties, those in one way or the other that was affected by the flooding. It was quite a very emotional and very damaging situation. Yeah. In fact, you will never understand how it feels until you become a victim.
That's true.
So I personally wasn't affected, but I had friends and colleagues who unfortunately was affected. And they literally just went blank. Even when you are talking to them, you see that they have really been broken down.
Yes.
And we pray that government move to action and then we put in measures to prevent this. Now, having said about that, the impact of floods, what we see physically, about the destruction of cars, the destruction of people's building, maybe their TV, their sofas and all that. They are just the physical manifestations of the impact of the flood. But there are other important areas where their lives may be affected, which you may not see to bear. So you can easily see the car floating in the river. I saw people's Range Rovers that was carried into the drain. And I'm like, Range Rover of all cars with all the weight, but that is the nature of God, And so there are some other aspects, which is the health side, where nobody seems to be talking about, but that area is very, very important. There are many people who may be affected by the effect after months, and you tend to see some of these things manifest in a disease situation. And the most common diseases, which I would want to just mention, they are basically about 3 of them. The first one is cholera, what is normally caused by vibrio cholera. And cholera has always been with us. Mostly, even in rainy seasons, people get cholera. I think as 2 years ago, it was that bad. And we've had situations where we've lost people, and now that it's even flooded, it's going to get worse. Aside cholera, the next thing is typhoid fever. And typhoid fever is very common. In our hospitals today, there are so many people who have typhoid fever. I had patient who is in and out of the hospital, you give the patient so many antibiotics, the typhoid fever is not
keeps coming back.
And sometimes they go and do herbal because they think that the herbal will do the job. But sometimes it's just because they have been infected to a point that the bacteria is so high in their blood that it needs a certain high amount of bacteria to be able to clear it out. And the last one is our almighty malaria, which we have done a lot of works over the years, but there's still more to be done. So these are there are other conditions, hepatitis B and other, dysentery and others, but these are the three most important based on clinical experience that people normally report with. And flooding has been associated with these diseases. Why? Because once there's flooding, the sewage tanks, which mostly some of them get leakages, some are overfilled, so they find their way into the flood waters. So what may be happening to you may not be related even to your immediate surrounding. That sewage leakage may be coming from even somewhere far away from you, but it's going to travel all the way to your home. As long as your home is flooded, you are going to be exposed to these things. We have animal waste which will be carried away, we have industrial waste, and the almighty waste which we have all been talking about. We saw how they were all swimming and laughing at us during the period of the flood, which is a direct impact of human activities. Now, when these things find their way, they are not just refuse or sewage, but they carry tons and millions of bacteria. And these are the things that actually cause those diseases. So if you do not put yourself in a situation where you are going to take good care of yourself, you are likely going to be affected by either a cholera or typhoid fever. And that is why it's important to talk about these conversations.
I'm so glad we are. Can food seem or look good but be unsafe to eat? And how do you recognize the signs that this food may be contaminated?
Yeah. So the appearance of a food does not necessarily mean the food is safe. There are a lot of foods which normally are very well packaged, but they are not healthy. So one of the things you want to look out for is how the appearance of the food. Now, with the appearance, we all know how a typical appearance of a fresh fruit should look like. For example, if it's a fruit like a mango, we know the color of how a mango looks like. Now, even banana, you know how it should look like. There are times that you peel that banana and you see a certain dark spot. And you know what people do?
They bite it off.
Throw it away.
And continue eating.
And the next thing they are eating. But if you take just that part, a friend did an experiment. He took just that part and took it to the laboratory. Oh my God.
The amount of
AJ, you can't believe what we saw. Ever since then, when I see a banana, no matter how fresh, if I see a small mold on it, I will not eat. It is just by the grace of God, most people are surviving. And the reason why sometimes you eat it and be walking about is because your immune system is able to do the job. But most people, at the end of the day, if their immune system does not do the job, you end up going sick. And there's this perception that African germs are not harmful.
No fear germs.
Exactly. So you want to look at the appearance. Normally, if it's a packaged food, you want to look at the packaging and be ensured that all the packaging is sealed. When you see that any part of the food is tempered, please do not eat that food. Then the expiration date, the expiry date, is not something we typically will look out for, because mostly it happens that most of the foods are expired. People are eating a lot of expired food, but they don't have the habit of checking expiration date. I do that a lot, but sometimes you are caught up with time. You just pick the thing. There was a day I just picked the stuffs. I got to the house. By the time I look at the expiration date, the thing I said like 2 months ago.
Wow.
And they are selling it on the shelf. So quickly I rushed back to the shop and I confronted the woman that, do you know that these, things you are selling are expired? They were milk products. And she was pretending as if she's not aware.
Wow.
She said, oh, let me check. Then she checked and she apologized. And in front of me, she quickly just had to
grab all
of them. And I said, no, I want to see this thing being disposed. I cannot leave whilst you keep them. And then in front of me, she took them and dropped them in a dustbin. If I hadn't checked, somebody else could have also gone to buy that. So you look at the appearance, you look at the covering, how the food is covered, and look at the expiration date. And then when you see any signs that does not look like the usual, please, if you are in doubt, do not eat. That is it. If you are in doubt, do not eat. Because if you eat and your immune system fails you, then you are going to end up with sickness. Now, with the flooding and the food and how we can handle things, I want to look at it in 3 different areas, okay? The first part is the food and how we handle the food. And then the second part is water, the safety of the water, which is also a problem during flood. And the last part is the environment, how to keep our environment in these situations of flood. So we can start from the food. You know, we all eat. You know, when the flood happened, I was on social media, then there was this gentleman whose room has been flooded. I don't know whether you saw it. His entire room was soaked, his living room. Then he was showing us that you can see what it has done to me. And he was showing, he went to the kitchen and he had this banku on his kitchen.
Oh, Charlie.
And he was boiling his groundnut soup and there was some chicken inside. And he said he doesn't care. That the flood can take everything. But after this banku and chicken there, he will not go and leave it, you know. It was very quite interesting and very, emotional because you could see that he was just trying to calm himself down. And he thought that, okay, after this banku, I'm not leaving it. And, before he realized, he started, fetching the banku. And the banku, I don't know whether it was even eaten, you know. And then, so these are some of the things. He is not ready to let the banku go because he felt like he has already lost everything. But these are some of the things that can expose to food safety issues because there may be leakages through the roofs because
things have dropped on it, yes,
inside the soup and all that. No matter how you heat it, but you may still put yourself at risk. So when it comes to food, what we are saying is that let's go back to the basics. So the first important rule is thorough hand washing. Wash your hands thoroughly with soap and the running water. Now, putting your hands in water and then trying to squeeze your hands in is not hand washing. Hand washing is a principle. There are laid down guidelines. When COVID came, we were taught how to wash our hands. It takes about 30 seconds to about 30 minutes to be able to thoroughly wash your hand. And you see that what people do is that once the food is ready and they're hungry,
they just dip their hand inside and then they go.
And they start eating.
Or they just rinse their hands in the water and then they go.
It doesn't work. So you need to wash your hand under running water thoroughly at the back, and then making sure your nails, you wash your hands thoroughly and remove all the dirt before eating. So we are advising people that they should wash their hands thoroughly, and that's one of the things that can help. Now, you want to also separate cooked food from uncooked food, because for some people in their fridges, they have mixed everything. There's no, the demarcation is not in a way that you have the cooked food separate, and so you may sometimes, even when there's light out, you see that the chicken and the meat water
defrosting onto things
is leaking into your cooked food,
and you could get like salmonella from those things.
Salmonella, yes, is one of the the things, the bacteria that are very stubborn to treat. So once these cross-contamination happen, it's going to be a problem. And my issue is the food handlers. Please, if you're a food handler, you are listening to me, please, let's fix this country. Don't say because you want to make profit. The foodstuffs may be affected by floods.
But then they'll just use it, they'll blend it, they'll pound it, they'll do whatever they need to.
So why are you still using that vegetable to cook when you know that it has been affected by flood waters, just because you don't want to throw it away? We want to beg you, please, discard those foodstuffs and seek for safer foodstuffs and use to prepare. So because that is why Ghana Health Service had to issue a statement on it. So we want to ensure that the food service people are ensuring that their area is very safe. The utensils that you are using to cook, want to encourage that you wash them thoroughly, because some of these utensils can carry the bacteria along. So you want to wash them very well with soap, sometimes even hot water, before you reuse it to go back to cook that palm nut soup that you are going to sell to people. My wache seller, Auntie Muni, please, let's keep the place neat. You know, we don't always have to sell food under dirty environment. So this period, if you are buying food, you would want to ensure that you are buying food in an area that is a bit clean and safe. If you are not sure, please look for a different place. And let's try to cook more. Within the next few months, let's try to cook from home. In case you have to buy, please use a microwave, especially vegetables and fruits, because of the risks of either typhoid fever or cholera. And you see, the funny thing is typhoid fever and cholera is mostly transferred through contaminated urine or fecal matter. And so sometimes you ask yourself, how did fecal matter
because
get
people don't
into
wash their
people's
hands.
food?
They don't wash their hands.
Such that the person ate the food and got typhoid fever. You don't understand, because it's just a culture of people not willing to wash their hands. You go to places, people are pounding fufu. This fufu person who is stirring the fufu just went into the washroom. He comes back. Instead of him to use soap and wash their hand, they will dip their hands in water and start stirring the fufu. Then when you start talking, they say you are too known. You these booklong people. I've had situations where I've confronted people because me, I can't keep quiet. Me, when I see it, I'll talk, because I believe that we all need to not keep quiet about these things. Because if we are doing our job, people shouldn't be getting typhoid fever. People shouldn't be getting cholera, because it is fecal matter and urine. So how come it got its way into the food? It means somebody did not do his work well. So I want to plead with the food handlers, please, this is the time we need to rise up to the situation. If we see any outbreak of cholera, it means that all of us have not done our work well.
I like that. So and then it's a misconception that if I heat the food very high enough, it will kill all germs. Is this a right assertion to make?
Yes, it is true. When you heat the food at a certain high temperatures, you are going to lose certain nutrients. So the question people normally ask whether to heat or not to heat. But for me, the truth is, these days, looking at the kind of exposure our vegetables get through and our fruit and all kinds of our foodstuffs, I would advise that food should always be heated. What you just have to do is that do not overheat. When you heat it to a point where it's turning red or yellow, then it means that it has been overheated. So I never advise my patients to do raw vegetable salad and take it like that, because there are so many of them who are having typhoid fever, and most times you can just link the typhoid fever to consumption of vegetables outside. Yes, and sometimes even drinking water. So I normally advise them that when you buy vegetables, take a microwave and microwave the vegetables at least 2 minutes maximum. 5 minutes may be too much. 2 to 3 minutes should be enough. And then sometimes you can even steam it on fire so that it becomes a bit softer, and then if there's any contamination, the bacteria can be killed before it finds its way onto your plate. Because we can't really trust our sources. We have so many unscrupulous food vendors who are just not adhering to the standards. And where is our environmental and sanitation workers? A lot of them are at home when they needed to be posted. So we have all the structures in place to be able to handle these things, but it's just that implementation, that is my country's problem. Ghana has every law, but when it comes to implementation, and that is our problem. But I think we need to fix ourselves, and it starts with you and I.
Absolutely. Now, for a number of people, they practically live on takeouts. Is there a particular thing people should notice or look out for when they are buying food from certain vendors?
Excellent question. Yes, so that is very important. So first, you look at the environment. The environment is very, very important. There are people who think that the best wache tastes by the gutter. The best wache tastes better by the gutter. I don't know why you've heard that. And it's just a whole perception. I mean, why would you have to buy wache by the gutter to be able to feel the taste of the wache? So, but the environment is key. Please, if you look at the environment and it's not safe, please run away for your life, because somebody else will eat and be walking free. You will eat it. Your immune system will break down because the bodies are not the same. So the best thing is to look at the environment. 2, you look at the hygiene practices of the one selling. You see, sometimes they don't even know what they are. Somebody may be selling before he put his hand in his nose. Without even thinking about it.
I've seen a lot of people that put insecticide coil inside the kiosk they are selling things in. Yes. Should we be alarmed with that?
Yes, because some of the chemicals, the smoke from the chemicals may find its way into the food. I know they do that to get away with flies.
Yes.
But I also feel it is not the safest way
for people to eat around that. Yeah.
If it's away from the cooking area and it's maybe on the tables of the people eating, maybe it's better than when it's where the food is, because you are getting the smoke and sometimes you can even feel the smell in your wache.
Yes,
you can feel the smell in your wache, and so those practices should be discouraged. It's not the best way. So you want to look at the one selling. How is the person conducting himself? How neat is this person? If you see any red sign, the best thing is please you have to move away because you cannot risk it. And I believe that once you do all these things, you'll be able to help yourself. The next one I wanted to touch on was the water. It's very important. Water is key. This period of flooding is going to make accessible drinking water, safe and accessible drinking water, very difficult because you have some taps will be closed because of the flooding, and you have some of the leakages getting into our water storage. So a lot of people use water to cook direct from their tap. Now the question is, can you trust that tap water that you are going to use to prepare your light soup? And how much heat do I need to heat this? Because some of the bacteria are very stubborn. One of them is E. coli. That man can stand heat. You can heat it several times. E. coli can still stay.
Wow.
So it is a bacteria that is very stubborn and needs a very high temperature before you can be able to deal with it. So the fact that you think you are boiling that water does not mean it's safe. So you want to check your water storage. If it is possible, drink only from either sachet or bottled water. But you see, it is not every bottled and sachet water that is clean.
Yes.
There was a research where we took some samples of some water brands in Accra, and we took it for testing. AJ, you can't believe what we saw. People are just mixing water in sachets and they are cutting it from their machines and they are selling to us. No form of purification. We reported, even though they didn't know what we were going to use that, we reported it to FDA and they had to go and check what they are doing. Some of them were closed. And these are some of the things we need to be doing. So if you can get sachet water, please use trusted brands. Brands that you are sure that they will do the right thing. If it's bottled water, use the trusted brands. But however, if you are, not all of us can afford, bottle, even sachet. Not everybody can afford. Imagine you are using sachet to prepare light soup.
Charlie?
How many bags of water would you need to prepare a pot of palm nut soup? If a food handler decides to use sachet water to cook her banku, how many sachets of water would she need to cook that palm nut soup? We all end up using the water from the tank. So if you cannot afford sachet or bottled water, what you need to do is that you heat the water at a very high temperature. Let it boil up to about 100 degrees. Then you cool the water and you sieve it. Then you put it in clean containers and keep it in your fridge. And then you use it to drink. It is safer that way than to just be drinking it directly from the tap. Because right now we can't trust what we are getting from our taps.
Unfortunately, time flies when you're having fun. So, final question. And in 30 seconds or less, final message for viewers, because the rainy season hasn't ended. The quickest health tip you can give them as we continue in the rainy season.
Yeah, so as we continue, we want to let the general public know that the risks of cholera, typhoid fever, and then malaria is very high because of the flooding. So please stay safe. Those who are in flood-prone areas, find a way to take the water out of your rooms and make sure that you keep your utensils clean. We want to encourage that when you are buying food, try to heat the food. If you can cook at home, please cook more and stop buying within this period. If you are buying, use a microwave to heat the food, especially fruit and vegetables, and go back to the basis of proper hand washing. And we believe that together we can be able to overcome this risks of cholera and typhoid this year.
I love that. Thank you so much. Resident dietitian Maxwell Bisala Konlan, Principal Dietitian, University of Ghana Hospital. Thank you so much, sir, for coming through, and we look forward to having you again to speak more on health-related matters.
And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And quickly getting into birthday shouts, but before that, let me tell you a little bit about latex foam, because latex